Falcon Heavy's selection for the 2028 Dragonfly mission shows how heavy lift capacity directly enables long-duration outer planet rotorcraft flights. This is SpaceX Daily, episode 74. NASA selected Falcon Heavy to launch the Dragonfly rotorcraft to Titan in July 2028. The mission will spend 6.5 years crossing the solar system before reaching the moon's surface. Titan features weather, seasons, rivers, and seas of methane and ethane. The rotorcraft will study prebiotic chemistry and habitability once on site. Falcon Heavy delivers the full spacecraft stack in a single launch and removes any need for on-orbit assembly. SpaceX reached its 100th orbital mission of 2026 with a Starlink deployment from Vandenberg. Internal planning documents show the company intends to maintain high launch cadence through year-end. Growth in that cadence draws support from both Starlink operations and national security contracts. A Falcon 9 flight is now scheduled from Vandenberg for Tuesday night. Sonic boom notifications went out to coastal communities along the expected return trajectory. Rocket Lab will fly a Photon spacecraft in 2027 to test routing with the Space Data Network. The network's core infrastructure comes from SpaceX. The test will validate data routing between commercial and government space assets. The demonstration specifically targets direct connectivity between Photon and the SpaceX-built backbone. LandSpace completed the first booster landing by any Chinese private launcher during a suborbital test flight. The booster touched down intact after separating from the upper stage. The achievement places LandSpace alongside SpaceX and Blue Origin in demonstrating vertical reusability. Observers on Christmas Island shared video of the Starship upper stage arriving under tow after nearly a month at sea. Local accounts noted the vehicle remained intact despite extended ocean exposure. Engineers near the island are inspecting attachment points ahead of the tow back to Starbase. Cursor is rebranding as Ma while preparing its Origin code hosting platform. The platform targets AI agent workflows and lets users sync repositories without leaving the editor. The launch occurred on the same day GitHub recorded a 20% error rate. Worth keeping an eye on, Southeast states are considering a moratorium on new data center construction. Proposals cite electricity demand and land use strain on local grids already committed to other users. Additional review of power contracts would be required before permits are granted. The measures would apply to both utility-scale and hyperscale facilities. On the AI front, GLM 5.3 improved scores on coding and cybersecurity benchmarks while surfacing a vulnerability inside the Cursor environment. The platform allows users to run agent-driven code tasks directly within the editor. Developer discussions have focused on patching timelines for the reported issue. In this engineering deep dive, Falcon Heavy's assignment to Dragonfly rests on a simple mass and energy trade. Titan lies roughly 1.4 billion kilometers from Earth at closest approach, so a spacecraft must carry enough propellant and structure to break into orbit and then descend with a rotorcraft that itself weighs several hundred kilograms. A medium-lift vehicle would require multiple launches and on-orbit assembly, adding docking mechanisms, extra propellant tanks, and months of integration time. Falcon Heavy collapses that stack into a single launch, trading higher per-flight cost for fewer interfaces and a shorter critical path to departure. The same first principles accounting explains why the mission timeline shows a July 2028 liftoff, followed by a 6.5-year cruise. The heavy lift margin removes the need for an extra propulsion stage, letting mission designers allocate mass instead to science instruments and the rotorcraft's power and communication systems. That margin is the direct result of 9 Merlin engines on the side boosters, plus the ability to recover those boosters, lowering the effective cost per kilogram delivered to a trans-Titan trajectory. The idiot index for this architecture is instructive. If the raw inputs are 9 Merlin engines, 2 side booster tanks, a center core, and the Dragonfly rotorcraft itself, the finished stack still costs many times the sum of those components because of integration labor, qualification testing, and the single-use upper stage. Reusability on the side boosters already compresses that multiplier by returning the most expensive hardware elements. Adding a third recoverable core would shrink the index further, but the current 2-booster plus expendable center design still delivers enough payload to Titan that the mission avoids an extra chemical stage or solar electric tug. The physics payoff appears in the cruise duration. With the full mass budget available at Trans-Titan injection, the spacecraft can carry both the rotorcraft and the propellant needed for Saturn orbit insertion, without staging again. Dragonfly's rotorcraft adds another layer of mass discipline. The vehicle must fly in an atmosphere whose density is 4 times Earth's, yet whose gravity is only 1/7 as strong. That combination favors large, slow-turning blades powered by a radioisotope thermoelectric generator. Because Falcon Heavy places the entire assembly on a direct trajectory, the rotorcraft avoids the mass penalty of a separate lander bus or additional propellant for orbit circularization. The design therefore trades launch vehicle complexity for payload simplicity, a classic first principles swap that only becomes viable once the lift capacity exceeds the threshold where assembly in orbit would otherwise be required. Future missions to Enceladus or Triton will face the same calculation. A quick market note: SPCX moved higher on the session. Before we go, the next Falcon 9 from Vandenberg will add another data point on how quickly the year's launch total can climb. That's the day at SpaceX. That's a wrap. SPCX is trading at $143.34, up 0.7%. If you're new here, subscribe and this briefing finds you every day. I'm Patrick in Vancouver. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you tomorrow. And before you go, this show is part of the NARA Network, a family of daily podcasts on tech, science, and markets, each one a short, sharp briefing you can finish on the commute. If today earned its place in your feed, here's your next listen. Unintended Consequences, True Stories of Good Intentions That Backfired. Find every show free at naranetwork.com. Following the long arcs, story trackers on naranetwork.com follow major programs across episodes: Tesla, SpaceX, AI, space science, and more. This episode used AI voice synthesis of my voice. Editorial selection and analysis are my own.